Hello everyone, welcome to section 3, information gathering. So in this section, we're going to be performing information gathering on our target. Alright, so let's look at what we'll be looking at in this section. So we'll start off with gathering DNS enumeration. So we're going to be using a tool called DNS Enum to gather DNS information on our target. Alright, we will then move to a more classic way of searching for information or information gathering. We will be performing a whois lookup and a subdomain enumeration on our target. Alright, so we will use whois lookup tools and we will get information about our target, and we'll then look at how to enumerate subdomains belonging to a target using a tool called NockPy. Alright. After doing that, we will then be looking at how to find open ports on our target with Nmap. Alright, so we're going to be using Nmap as our network scanner to find open ports on our target, that way giving us the ability to see what services we can exploit. Alright, we will then move on very closely to OS and service fingerprinting, essentially using Nmap to detect what operating system and services that are running on our target. Alright, so that is called OS and service fingerprinting. So we'll also be using Nmap for that. And finally, we'll be looking at Maltego. More specifically, we'll be gathering information on our target using a tool called Maltego, which is a graphical user interface, a very good tool, one of the best tools in information gathering. Alright, so that is what we'll be looking at in section 3, looking at information gathering. So I'll see you in the first video. In this video, we're going to be looking at DNS enumeration. Alright, so DNS enumeration is the process of locating all DNS servers and the entries for the organization or the target that you're trying to perform the enumeration on. Now you might be wondering, what exactly does DNS mean? Well, DNS is the domain name servers, and these are the servers in which an IP address and a host name are resolved. Okay, so DNS enumeration will allow us to gather information, really critical information about the organization that we're trying to target, such as the usernames, the computer names, and the IP addresses, and so on. Now, to achieve this, we'll be using a tool called DNS Enum, or DNS enumeration, but it's shortened up and it's called DNS Enum, or Enum for that matter. So let's get started. Now, it comes pre-installed and pre-configured in Kali Linux, and let's see how we can use it. Alright, so I'm just going to open up my terminal, and it's really very simple. Now I'm just going to expand it so we have a good idea of what's going on here. Okay, interesting. Now let's get started. Now the syntax is really very simple, and the command is very simple. It is DNS Enum. Alright, so DNS Enum, and that is the command, and that is the tool. Now if we use the help command, which is followed by the # and help, this will display all the options that you have available that you can use with DNS Enum. Now, the very important thing I want to show you guys is this help menu is really useful if you're new to a tool or a technique, and can be really interesting if you just perform some research. Now we'll be looking at quite a few of these options, but let's look at how to perform a basic enumeration on a website. Alright, for example. So I'm going to be using my website in this demonstration, and I just want to point out that I'm going to blur out the critical information about my website, just for privacy protection and, so on and so forth. Now, again, I do have to pass out caution. I wouldn't recommend you actively engaging with your target if you do not have written permission, in the sense that if you're performing a penetration test on a company, you better have written permission to do so. Otherwise, you can test your own sites or sites that you own, or you can build your own virtual lab and test them from there. As I'm doing right now, I'm going to be using my website, alright, which is hacksploit or hsploit.com. So to use the tool, we use the DNS Enum tool, and after that I specify my website. So my website is hsploit.com, and let's see what information it gives us about my website, what DNS information gives on my website. So let me just hit enter, and it's going to start the process, and as you can see, we're getting some information here. And now let's look at the results, because it's very important. So it's going to get the host address. Alright, so it's got the host address and it's got the IP address right here. Very interesting information as we've got there. Now, looking at the results, we have name servers, which is very important, and it can give you more information about the servers in which it is being resolved at and their IP addresses. And from then onward, you get an idea of how the target is communicating with the DNS servers. Furthermore, it prints out the mail servers. Interesting, very interesting. Mail servers are a great attack vector and can provide a very good entry level, for performing an attack. Now, as I said, I'm going to cover the IP information just for privacy purposes, so that we have a good info. We can have some good privacy. Otherwise, that is the information that it did get, and this information is really useful because we were able to resolve the domain name servers that are currently being used, and we have got the IP addresses. Furthermore, we were able to get the IP addresses that belong to the mail servers. Okay, now let's look at some more options that we can use with DNS Enum. All right. So some of them include, so let me just bring up the help menu here. So DNS Enum help. All right. And one of the options that we can look at is how to use the output location, which is simply printing out output, which is the O right here. So this allows us to output the information in XML format. Very useful if you're performing a penetration test. In the sense that, as you're performing a penetration test, and I'm talking about this on a professional level, it is very important to document all the scans that you're doing on the target. All right. So this would be a very interesting thing to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to browse to my desktop. So change directory desktop, and I'm going to create a folder there called results. Right. So results, and I'm going to change my directory into that folder. Excellent. Now I'm going to save my results in this folder. So I'm going to perform the scan again. So DNS Enum, right? And we simply put the output, and we specify the file. Now, if we look at the help menu before we do this, we're going to see something very important. It's going to give you the syntax. So it's going to say O, or you can use the double dash and use output, and you specify the file, and the output should be in XML format. All right. Very important to note that. So let's perform the scan here now. So I'm going to say DNS Enum, and I'm going to specify the website, so hsploit.com, and I'm going to specify the output, and I want to save it in a file called hsploit.xml. All right, this would be the standard way of doing so, and I did enter, and there we are. It's going to get the information, and indeed it is going to save it in a XML file. So let me just check whether it's created the file. So let me just list what files we have there. So there we are. We do have the hsploit.xml file. So let me clear this out, and I'm going to just see whether or not we can access it. And there we are on my desktop. If I open up the results folder, there we are, hsploit.xml. And if I open it up with the text editor, we can see that it gives us information about the website that we've just performed the scan on, which in this case is hsploit.com. Awesome. So now we have information, and we have saved the information, which is very crucial when performing any type of enumeration or scanning for that matter. All right. Now let's look at some of the more important commands. All right. So if we look at the DNS Enum help menu, help, we can see that we have options regarding who is requests. All right. And that is denoted by the W command right here. All right. So this allows you to perform who is queries on the network ranges, as it says. All right. So what this essentially does is going to perform who is queries on the website to get more information about the website or for an organization in a larger scale. All right. So let's see if we can do that. So I'm going to use the same command, DNS Enum. Specify the site. I'm not going to output the information this time. I'm just going to hit the W command, or you can enter this command before you enter the website, or you can do it after. It really doesn't matter. So I'm just going to hit enter, and let's see what information we get. All right. So not a lot of additional information was found. As you can see, warning, cannot load the who is IP module. Who is queries are disabled. So that means my website has disabled who is queries, and that is a security feature that I did implement. But regardless of whether or not I have implemented this, if the site is less secure, which is what we're trying to find out, this would be a great place to perform a who is attack, or a who is query for that matter. It's not really an attack. Sorry about that. All right, so that is how to perform DNS enumeration on a target. Now you can do this on an IP address, as well as doing this on, for example, a website, as we just did. And it's a fantastic way of gathering information about the domain name servers and the mail servers, as you have seen, and that can hopefully give you insight or give you a bit of more information about the target and how the target is set up. Alright, so I'll be seeing you in the next video. We're going to be performing some information gathering, and more specifically we're going to be looking at how to get some who is information about your target